How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope. This time for, what are we doing? May 30th, I believe, through June 5th. Anyway, you're watching this probably on Sunday morning if you're on YouTube, or if you're a patron of mine, you're watching this on Friday. And if you're not familiar, on my Patreon, I offer monthly overviews as well as rising sign horoscopes. If you want to watch my horoscopes, I actually provide horoscopes over on my Patreon. I feel like a lot of people don't know that. Anyway, consider being a subscriber. But if you're watching this on Sunday, you're watching this on the Mars-Jupiter conjunction. You're watching this getting ready for the new moon. And I'm opening up with this because this isn't the biggest week ever. I got a comment last week, and yes, I do actually read the comments, and someone was like, you're saying it's a big week, and everyone says it's a big week every week. How am I supposed to know when it's not a big week? Stop. I'm not like every other astrologer that says every week is a big week. I'm here to tell you this isn't the biggest week ever. But also, when I do say that, I'm going to get half of you that's going to be like, Cameron, this is the biggest week of my life. So just understand that, again, while we can talk about the transits and everything going on, all of this is related to your birth chart and how things are affecting your natal placements. And all I can do is tell you what the skies are saying, and then it's your job to relate how that's going to be affecting you and your chart. Or unless you want to buy a reading from me and I can tell you how it's going to be affecting your chart for the whole rest of the year ahead, consider doing that. But anyway, I'm saying all of this because this week, we're starting this Monday off with a new moon with this Mars-Jupiter conjunction, right? It's really on Sunday that we're going to be starting this with. And while we were in that waning moon phase last week, things were kind of calming down. We're at a new beginning this week, and you have an opportunity to do things that you've never done before, and you have an opportunity to be someone that you've always wanted to be. I think a lot about I'm thinking a lot about the school shooting and just how pathetic the police response was. And you don't want to hear my opinions about police officers. However, with this Mars-Jupiter stuff in Aries, I would really challenge you to actually be a hero and actually stand up for things that you believe in, rather than, I think these officers are great examples of what not to do and how to be a pathetic bitch. This week, when you have a call to action, don't skip out on it. When you are called to action this week, don't skip out on it. Do your job. Be brave. And I think this is good advice for everyone, because right now it's really easy in these times of fear and in these times of contraction, especially in the economy and the recession that everyone's talking about. This is the time to not be afraid. And it is so easy to be full of fear right now. And that Mars-Jupiter conjunction is, you have to be brave. I mean, I said that a lot last week, but it's really important this week. And I think those officers that did not do their job is a really good example of what not to be. And so take that to heart. Don't be afraid. Truly. I also want to state that this week's highlights. Oh, whoops, wrong button. This week's highlights. It's not the biggest week ever, but we are having Mercury station direct, and we're going to be having Saturn actually station retrograde. This is a big deal in the terms of the Saturn and Aquarius social divide that we've been going through since the lockdowns. Saturn stationing retrograde will not be subtle at all. However, I said that this isn't the biggest week ever simply because last week we had a lot of transits. But anyway, this week we're starting it off on Monday with the new moon in Gemini. And I know I talked about that last week on Sunday, but that was like the new moon happens exactly on Monday morning. So again, this is a really good opportunity to start new things. I'm not kidding when I say this. If you've been a client of mine, you've heard me say that this past 30 days are planting the seeds of things that you will reap in 4 to 5 years. Mark my words. I'm not kidding when I say that. And, some people kind of think that they just live in the moment and that, their actions don't have repercussions for later on down the road. They do. And this is a really important time in terms of the astrology and just looking further out. I also say this because Mars is in Aries right now. And Mars will be in Aries with Jupiter for quite some time. But then after that, Mars is going to go into detriment for about 6 or 7 weeks. And it will have a lot of challenges. So this energy, this fight, this vigor that you kind of have, it's momentary. It's only for the moment. Not everything's forever, especially this energy of right now of being brave, being courageous. Also, after that, Mars is going to go retrograde for 8 months. Mars usually likes to move forward, and it's going to be moving backwards for a long time. So I want you to understand that, like, you have to make hay while the sun shines. And I don't want you guys to miss out on this opportunity. So it's my job to let you know, like, hey, you only got so much time. Are you going to keep fucking around? Are you going to skip out, or are you going to do something different for once? Again, we're starting Monday off with the new moon. Mercury is stationing direct. We have a lot of opportunity here. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. So on Monday, new moon in Gemini pretty much is how we're starting off the morning, as well as it's still Mars conjoining Jupiter. The Mars-Jupiter conjunction happens on Sunday. So when we talk about, there's two things I wanted to say. One, there's the bravery part of it, but there's also the separation, the kind of Mars is anger and war and fights and conflicts, and Jupiter just expands that. So if you have like a lot of, like, for me, Mars is really angular in my chart. I'm a day chart, so Mars is really rough. And sometimes I can get really overwhelmed when I get like really frustrated or angry. It's going to be your job to contain that and to place it somewhere. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. And there's a lot of energy here. I'm telling you guys, like, it's going to be really easy to place this energy into negative places. Try not to do that. Do your best to not do that. At least give it some effort. But this is the new moon in Gemini. This is let's go ahead and pull up the chart. So when we're talking about it again, so the exact new moon actually happens like pretty much early Monday morning. And this is our first lunation in Gemini without eclipses. For the past 2 years, we've had eclipses in Sagittarius and Gemini, which has been pretty funny because the North Node is like this intensity and this, loud noises almost. And in Gemini, the last 2 years, what I thought was funny about the last 2 years is it's just been data and information, and you're not allowed to believe anything. You just have to listen to the data and all of that shit. But this is the new moon in Gemini. There is a clear understanding of things now. Yes, Mercury is retrograde and squaring Saturn, and I think that clarity is, there are some challenges ahead. Mercury is on top of Algol and it's retrograde. I would ask you guys to not be super revengeful, because whenever it's super funny how petty and people in the spiritual community are such narcissists and such, like, the mental illness in this community is insane. In fact, I plan on doing a delineation episode about how rampant mental illness is in this community and how a lot of this just kind of gaslights you guys and enables a lot of the mental illness. It's pretty fucking sad, to be honest with you. But I look at this new moon in Gemini, and this is new moon in Gemini. We're in a switch. We're in a change. It's a new moon in a mutable sign. So we were literally changing things over. It's in Gemini. It's about understanding. It's about communication. It's about information. But Mercury's still retrograde, right? It's on Algol. I think it's going to be really easy to step into revenge mode, and that whatever you do to other people, it just comes back to yourself. Like, I mean, it's really funny how people in the spiritual community just believe in karma, but then don't understand that their actions have consequences. So, I mean, don't be afraid to be a good person is what I would say. But I think as Mercury is still retrograde here during this new moon, I think there's an understanding that things are kind of slowing down, that we're in the middle of a change, and that we need to get our head straight for it. But Mars is still conjoining Jupiter on Monday. Again, don't be afraid to be brave. Don't be afraid to have courage. Again, you don't need to know what to do. You don't need to know what is right. You just need to do it. Again, I cannot stop thinking about these officers and how their failure to act on these situations is, maybe we don't blame the individuals, but maybe we should blame the institutions and how they're trained and everything like that. However, I'm using this as an example because this is real life, And as Mars is conjoining Jupiter, you might get a call to action. It might be your time to stand up for something. Are you going to do it or not? Are you going to be afraid or not? And, that's not an easy question to answer. I'm not saying this to be like, it's one of those things that it's something that you have to live with, right? Do you want to live with regret of not doing, or do you want to live with the regret of whatever actions you end up taking? As Saturn station's retrograde this week, and we're going to talk about this when it happens, a lot of this week is about choosing your side. As we get to Tuesday, the moon's going to be, again, fresh off this new moon. So again, what I love about the new moons is that this is a clear time to really be like, all right, let me center myself. Let me plan ahead. Let's get ready for the new that's coming up. Again, we're just now getting out of eclipse season, guys. We've been dealing with eclipses since April 30th. It's been a very, very wild month, and things are finally starting to kind of make themselves a little bit more chill. And so as this moon leaves this new moon, it's going to square Neptune, but it's going to trine Saturn. Again, you don't have to know. You don't have to know. You just have to believe. This moon squaring Neptune, it's going to get really easy to get, overwhelmed with, what things are supposed to look like in your head versus how they're materializing. The moon is in Gemini and how we feel. We have all these questions. And, that's what I do appreciate about the moon in Gemini. It is a good time to question how we feel and verbalize it and communicate it. But I think as it squares Neptune after we get off this new moon, as you start new things, you don't have to know. It's okay if you don't have the answers that you're seeking. You just have to do the work. And that moon's going to trine Saturn. Saturn asks you to be Saturn just asks you to again, just be committed to the outcome. Don't be be committed to the process. Be committed to the outcome. Don't worry about the challenges and the obstacles you're going to have on your way there, because you're going to have them. But don't worry about that. That's not for you to worry about. It's for you to clear out of your head. Your main focus should be committing to whatever it is that you've committed to and sticking with that plan. One of my favorite movies is Storks. It's a kid's movie, but it's really funny. And one of the sayings that they say is, make a plan, stick to the plan. And that is some of the best life advice I've ever heard. If you're going to make a plan, stick to that plan. Plans don't always go things don't always go according to your plan, but you have to stick to that outcome. So again, when we go into Tuesday, again, the moon coming off of this new moon where we're getting things started. The moon is starting to wax and it's starting to build up into things. I mean, that's going to take a couple weeks. But as it squares Neptune, there is going to be some confusion. You are going to get a little bit lost in it. But again, I think as it's trining Saturn, I think you just kind of have to trust the situation. Saturn is in Aquarius right now, where there is this kind of, we can talk about the society stuff and all that other whatever. But I think as the moon's trining Saturn, don't be afraid to I think you might get the message that you need, maybe not the message that you want. And you have to, something I love about the law of attraction is at least the right way you're supposed to do it. Because I'm not a big law of attraction person, but I mean you do manifest, your internal reality is your external reality. And something I do appreciate about the law of attraction is, you have to recognize it when you get it. It's really important to, you can manifest anything you want in your life, and it may not be exactly what you had in your head, but you have to be able to recognize it when you see it. So I think this moon square Neptune is it may not look like the way that you were expecting it to, but you're going to get the message is loud and clear. I think with this moon in Gemini trining Saturn, I mean, Mercury's getting ready to station direct too. That actually leads us to Wednesday. The moon's going to go into Cancer. We start June. As the moon goes into Cancer, it's going to make this square to Jupiter and Mars, which I want you to pay attention to, because as we get to the later part of June and we get to the new moon in Cancer, which is way later on, that will also be squaring Jupiter. So there's something about this June 1st day that you're going to come back to during the new moon. And if you want to know more about how the new moon's going to affect you, again, I do rising sign horoscopes over on my Patreon. Make sure you check them out. As this moon goes into Cancer and it squares Jupiter and Mars, that's one thing, right? But then the moon is going to also sextile Venus. Again, guys, we have, what is this, Wednesday? We have now Mars in its home sign, Saturn in its home sign, Venus in its home sign. In about 5 minutes, Mercury will be back in its home sign. There's a lot of dignity here, and there is a lot of, the planets are in places that they want to be able to do their jobs. So don't be afraid to lean into that, right? If you want to be lazy and you don't want to do things, wait for Mars to go into Taurus. Honestly. Anyway, as this moon goes into Cancer, necessity, trust, protection. The moon's in Cancer. It's going to be squaring Jupiter and Mars. One thing, I want you to not listen to your inner bitch. I think as the moon's in Cancer squaring Jupiter and Aries, Jupiter and Mars are going to be in the superior position. Well, actually, I take that back. I want you to think of two things. And I always try to give both sides to things, because not everyone's going to be like, oh, this is amazing, this is perfect. Don't mind me. I'm just turning on my fan real quick because it's a little hot in here. With Mars and Jupiter at the superior position, while the moon comes up to the square, there's Mars and Jupiter's I want to do it all, and I want to do it big, and I want to do it loud. And I think as the moon goes into Cancer and it squares Mars and Jupiter, it might be resting is also important too. I'm a big fan of Cal Newport. If you don't know who Cal Newport is a brilliant author. He's just like a productivity author, essentially. I've read all of his books. He's really, really good. You should check him out. He's a big Tim Ferriss fan, and I've been listening to him and Tim Ferriss just talk about like the 4-hour work week and how like doing less can be doing more, especially if you're concentrating on value. And so I think with this moon in Cancer squaring Mars and Jupiter, you don't just have to irrationally go after everything that you want. But I think the moon in Cancer squaring Jupiter Mars is, how about you focus your energy on what matters? Not just like it's super easy to get lost in productivity, especially with emails and how everything works. It's like, you could spend all day wasting your time with emails and not get anything done, versus if you just close out everything else in your life and you focus on one job, you focus on one thing, you'll be able to get a lot more done. And so I just look at this moon in Cancer. And so again, squaring Jupiter and Mars, don't be afraid to prioritize. Don't be afraid to put things in necessity. But I also don't want you guys to be little bitches, straight up. Because I feel like a lot of you are going to be much more of bitches than you are going to be about like, oh, I think it's going to be easy. Because again, one of my hot takes is it's a lot of people use astrology to enable their negative thinking, or like, oh, this is happening, so let me not do this. Oh, this is happening, so let me enable my shitty behavior. And I don't want you guys to do that. This is a tool. Astrology is a tool, and it's really easy to use this tool for things that aren't good for you. But as the moon is in Cancer, it's sextiling Venus and Taurus. So I want you guys to recognize, again, what is valuable here. Mars and Jupiter in Aries is not necessarily, again, just wildly going for everything with a crazed look is not going to do anything. But again, what is going to be of necessity? What is going to be of importance? And where can you actually extract or provide value? And that might, you might need to calm things down a little bit, because Mars and Jupiter is that crack energy of like, I just need to go. I just need to do things big. But if you can concentrate that energy and focus it, I think you're going to have a better time, to be honest with you guys. I mean, this is also advice I'm taking right now. So as we go into Thursday, really not a lot's going on Thursday. It's just the moon sextiling Uranus. Not really a big deal. Let's see if this is the right one. Yeah. I mean, like the moon's just kind of hanging out in Cancer. So the moon in Cancer is very an emotional time for everybody. But the moon is about feeling things, right? The moon is a reflector. And Cancer is about like, again, you can look up the nurturing and the protecting. Well, I always talk about protecting. Like Cancers are fucking assholes, in my opinion. I know some mean Pisces too. I think Pisces is one of the meanest signs. That's one of my hot takes. But I think as this moon's in Cancer, again, we have to prioritize, what is important, what is of necessity, where do we need to trust, getting into that gut-mind connection, right? And I think as that moon is sextiling Uranus and Taurus, when we can find innovative ways, we could find liberating ways to, get comfortable and to do things that the way I look at it is the moon in Cancer wants to be comfortable as it sextiles Uranus and Taurus. Don't be afraid to do something different. Find comfort can look a lot of different ways. In fact, Cal Newport talks about this in his book, Deep Work. I just bought it again so I could reread it. But like a lot of people think that like, oh, relaxation and comfort is just simply doing nothing, which is like, doing nothing is one of the worst things you can do for your psyche. Like sitting there, I'm looking at like my couch right here, just like sitting there and not doing anything is not good for you. Relaxation can just be a hobby or putting effort into something that is much more rewarding, that is much more enjoyable. And so I just look at this moon in Cancer sextiling Uranus and Taurus. If you're going to be looking for comfort, if you're going to be looking to feel good, don't be afraid to try something new. It doesn't have to be this gigantic big thing. Like it's just a sextile to Uranus. Just step a little bit out of your comfort zone. But I think this moon in Cancer time is, guys, you have to trust the process. You ever done a trust fall before? Do you guys even trust yourselves? One of my favorite lyrics is, again, I'm a big metal fan. If any of you remember Veil of Maya, one of their first albums, The Common Man's Collapse, they have a song called It's Not Safe to Swim Today. And one of the lyrics is, if you can't trust yourself, how can you trust anybody else? And so I want you guys to think about where you're putting your trust. And are you trusting the process? Are you trusting your own ability to get out of a situation? Are you, again, because you don't always need the answers. And that's something that we're going to keep talking about. But anyway, I just want to, with this moon in Cancer transit, I want you guys to really think about trust. Safety. Safety's really big about the Cancer stuff. Because again, it's about like this protection stuff, and it can be very reactionary. But I think as this moon is now waxing, it's now gaining light. I think there's a lot of trusting that's happening here. Feeling good about that too. Because I don't want to say it'll be easy to have like anxiety or whatever or to freak out, but I think with this moon in Cancer, the challenge is to really be present with how you feel. And, for example, there's listening to like your gut, right? But then like some people will be like some people will mistake their fears and their subconscious for like their intuition. Like that's something I really hate about like people being like talking about like intuitive eating, because I really think like most people's intuition when it comes to eating is really broken. I think a lot of people's intuition and trust and stuff is really broken. So I want you guys to just be aware of the difference between like what is your actual core intuition saying versus what are your fears saying, because it's super easy to mix up the two if you're not clear about it. So that's Thursday. I think this is Friday. Yeah. So then we get to Friday. On Friday. Oh, this is when Mercury stations direct. Why is it not on here? Okay, I meant to put Mercury stations direct on here. On Friday, Mercury stations direct. That's all you need to know. But the moon is going to, as it's still in Cancer, it's going to make a sextile to Mercury. The moon will then trine Neptune, and it will go opposite Pluto. And then more later on in the day, the moon will then ingress into Leo and trine Jupiter and Mars. Sounds pretty great, to be honest with you guys. But number one, Mercury is direct now, and it's on Algol. I think the biggest thing to bring up too is that it's squaring Saturn. Saturn being at the superior position of this, Saturn being like, hey, again, Saturn about to station retrograde on Saturdays, pick a side. Straight up, pick a side. What side are you on? And you can take that in any way you want, whether that's about the social stuff that we've got going on or your own personal life. Are you going to choose a new side, or are you going to choose comfort and safety? Like I just feel like it's super, like Saturn Aquarius is like, well, again, are you going to I think I used this analogy last week. Are you going to break out of prison? When the moment comes, are you going to go, or are you going to stay where it's safe and comfortable and where you're familiar? Or are you going to go out of your comfort zone to do something, to get something that you actually want? And I think as Mercury stations direct on Friday, there is a lot of clarity. We know where we're going, and it's on Algol. So for example, I want you guys to not be super revengeful and petty, but also there is a side of that I want you to lean into, simply because, Mercury stationing direct on North Node on Algol, squaring Saturn is very you're going to do what you're going to do anyway, right? I could tell you what you should and shouldn't do all day long, but you're going to do it anyway. So at least be aware of that, but know what you're choosing into. And I think as Mercury stations direct, we understand what we want. We're understanding what we're clear about. We understand it might even take longer, and it might even be more harder than we anticipated, because Saturn's about to station retrograde and it's squaring Saturn. Saturn at the superior position here is like, hey, this is real fucking life. This is a serious situation. This is going to take more responsibility. This is going to take more discipline than you might have actually signed up for. That doesn't mean you can't do it. That doesn't mean it's going to be too much. I think you guys can. I mean, it's Mars, Jupiter. But I think that reality of, hey, this is a lot of responsibility. Saturn about to station, Saturn going direct, man, authority feels really good until you got to be the person to make a decision on something. It's amazing how people love to be in power until they are in a position in which they have to make the right decision and that they have to be a leader. Leaders, there's no fucking leaders anymore. And so I just asked, with Saturn stationing retrograde in Aquarius, are you going to listen to what everyone else has to say, or are you going to listen to what you have to say? And so I think as Mercury stations direct, that mental clarity comes. And the biggest thing is this moon in Cancer. The moon's going to be trining Neptune, right? I like that as far as maybe even idealizing the process, it is healthy to idealize and romanticize and to fantasize. I know I'm super hard on Neptune, which we should be in this fucking fucked up world. But don't be afraid to romanticize that trust, that connection. And I think as the moon is sextiling Mercury here, I think it's really clear what we have to do. And the moon's going opposite Pluto. This isn't easy. I mean, Pluto's fear. Pluto is power. I want you guys to have your eyes roll back into your head with power this week, like a shark about to attack something. And I look at this moon opposite Pluto. You're going to have to I don't want to say put up with shit, but it's more of like you're going to face opposition from your fears, from power structures, especially Pluto and Capricorn is the system, governments, regulatory bodies, corporations. And so as the moon goes opposite Pluto, you're going to have to fight that. And fighting is a big, I mean, when we talk about Mars and Aries, guys, you know, the spiritual people love to be like, oh, no fighting, only good vibes. You know how peace and good vibes are actually won? It's through fucking fights. People earn that shit. People here in America don't actually understand how good they have it. And they don't understand that people have actually fought for this type of stuff. And I just want you guys to think that, like, you're not just, not everything is just going to fall gracefully in your lap. Sometimes you have to fight for things. And I don't want you to be afraid to fight for things, especially right now with Mars and Aries. Like, Jesus Christ, do not be afraid to fight. It'll be really important. So on Fridays, Mercury stations direct. I think there's a lot of clarity on the situation. I think there's also a lot of like, hey, we know what we're signing up for. This is a big responsibility, a big undertaking that we're taking on. But the heart wants what the heart wants, right? Mercury stationing direct on Algol. And maybe not even the heart. We just want what we want. But then the moon will go into Leo on Friday night. Friday night, I know I can't show you guys, but the moon is going to go into Leo right here. And it's going to start to trine Jupiter. It feels good to trust. It feels good. Like, you know, it's really easy to trap emotions inside, especially as a guy. Like, but when you talk about, like, I think facing fears and even just being open and honest about vulnerabilities and what you're scared of, I think that could be very beneficial, because I think as the moon goes into Leo and trines Jupiter, it's like I've talked about this before. It's like when you have a really emotional, very intense conversation, and then it's like afterwards you just feel liberated and free. And by the time we go into Friday night, as the moon goes into Leo and trines Jupiter and Aries, I mean, like, guys, it's a night and day switch from moon and Cancer, like feelings of like, oh my God, what am I doing? This is scary. I'm uncomfortable, to like moon and Leo trining Jupiter and Aries is like, what's that? I wish I could put up a picture of, like, have you guys seen that picture of that old man with the sweater? It says big dick is back in town. That's moon and Leo trining Jupiter and Aries. Is big dick back in town. Not even big dick energy. Big dick is back in town. And so I think as the moon goes into Leo, starting Friday night, I think to really get the most out of it, you kind of have to face some fears. But then once you do it, I mean, moon and Leo trining Jupiter and Aries is like, after you face some fears, like, have you ever faced a fear before and then realized, what the fuck else am I not facing that I could easily push through? Because when you face a fear, you go, wow, that wasn't that bad at all. It was all made up in my head, like most fears. And then you do it and you realize how dumb you were for ever being scared. And then you go, what the fuck? I'm the fucking shit, and I can do anything I fucking want. And so with this moon and Leo trining Jupiter and Aries, I want you guys to feel that way. On Friday night, you should be feeling like the shit, not like a little bitch. Okay? If you feel like a little bitch, you're doing something wrong. And as we get to Saturday, the moon technically will trine Mars, like later Friday night going into Saturday morning. So the moon will trine Mars Saturday morning, and the moon will also square Venus Saturday morning. But then the moon will eventually actually get to a square with Uranus later on in the day. And Saturn stations retrograde. So here's the thing. Again, in the morning here, as you can see, this is just a little bit after sunrise. The moon's going to be in Leo, and it's going to be trining Mars in Aries. It feels good. It feels good. Moon in Leo, your emotions are attached to your ego, to your pride, to your visibility. And those pride is really, pride can get you into some dangerous situations. But courage, there's a difference between pride and courage. And I want you guys to be courageous. Like, straight up, do not be a little bitch this week. This isn't just like oh my God, this one day I'm going to be all filled with energy. Like, it's super, I love astrology. I love astrology, guys. That's why I do this stuff. And it's really easy to be like, oh, this one day I'm going to feel the greatest. How can you continue that energy? Don't just let this day go to waste. Continue the momentum. And I think as the moon goes into Leo and it's going to be trining Mars, now you're putting your money where your mouth is at. That moon in Leo trining Mars in Aries is like, now you're not afraid to put some money down on the table. Now you're not afraid to be a little cocky. Again, it's like that. I'll put it to you this way. If I was in the forest, this is just an example. I'm not saying this would ever happen. But if I was in the forest and let's say a bear was there and I acted like a big bear to scare him away, the testosterone in my body and the adrenaline, I would feel like I could do anything in the world after that. And that's what this looks like. Like Moon and Leo leaving that trine to Jupiter and going over to Mars is like, man, what is fucking next? So again, it's going to take this week is going to take some time for you to get into your feelings. But by the time we get to Saturday, like you should be feeling balls to the wall like the shit. Now the moon is going to be squaring Venus. Okay. So there is this kind of like, while Venus is in Taurus, we want to be, fixated. We want things to, just be nice and enjoyable. And that moon in Leo squaring Venus and Taurus is like, like Venus and Taurus just wants things to be like nice. But the moon in Leo squaring it is kind of like, well, I need to rage out for a second, or I need to be, maybe shake up things a little bit in order to get the emotions out that I need to get out. But the moon is also going to make a square as we go on through the day on Saturday. The moon's going to make a square to Uranus. So like, Uranus and Taurus is, again, destabilizing at times, innovative and liberating, but also, that moon in Leo squaring Uranus. Here's the thing. When you act in a way that you've never done before, and you act with courage and pride and confidence, you're going to shake stuff up. Like Saturn squaring, we're in the Saturn-Uranus square stuff right now, and everything that was consistent and the same is no longer that way. And that moon in Leo is like, when you start doing good and you start being better for yourself, people will hate on that straight up. And I think this moon in Leo squaring Uranus and Taurus is that courage might shake stuff up. And that's okay. That's not bad. You might perceive that as negative, but it's not. Everything happens for a reason. But I just think I would expect on Saturday for you to, if you're going to keep having this balls to the wall feeling, just things are going to be a little bit shaky, and it's not going to be as maybe consistent as maybe you wanted to. But that's okay because, you're still on your shit. But Saturn stations retrograde on Saturday. Saturn doesn't station retrograde till later in the evening. So I know it's still regular, but just pretend it's retrograde at this point. What side are you on? Really? What side of the fence are you on this stuff? And there's a lot. When you talk about society and the fucking social divide that we've got going on right now, you gotta pick a side. And I'm not saying to be like partisan on any of this stuff. I don't even want you guys to think about this in like terms of like political stuff. I want you to think about Saturn and Aquarius. And are you going to, like, this is a moon in Leo transit. Are you going to be scared? Like Saturn and Aquarius is like, the authorities are watching. Are you going to be scared of the authorities? Or are you going to say, fuck that shit? I'm going to do me. And I want you guys, I think as Saturn stations retrograde, there's a few things to this. One, Saturn has been direct and been moving up for a long time. So we've been taking on more responsibilities, taking on more discipline, whether for better or for worse, whether that was our choice or not. For the night chart people, you've been forced to do things that you don't want to do. But then Saturn stations retrograde. For the day chart people, for the night chart people, as Saturn stations retrograde, the authority that has been pressuring you to do something that you haven't want to do is going to leave the room. Are you going to remain integral to what you need to do? Or, it's super crazy. I have a really good work ethic, and I don't appreciate people that act one way in front of authorities and maybe act a different way when they're gone. And I think as Saturn stations retrograde, as the authorities are gone and no one's watching, are you going to be a piece of shit? Or are you going to remain integral? Because now you're the authority and now you have to be the disciplinary. It's amazing how many people go in this world like allowing themselves to do whatever because they don't discipline themselves. They're not their own authority. Someone else has to do it. But when you're doing shit on your, like, I'm my own boss. I have to be so hardcore on myself to get anything done. And for the day chart people have been taking on responsibility. They've been taking on all these efforts, and as Saturn stations retrograde, now it's going to hit you. How fun? Did you really want all this responsibility? Did you really want all this duty? And the thing is, you're going to start to question all of this stuff, and that's okay. It's a time of questioning. Saturn being retrograde is like the authorities are leaving the room. The pressure's off for the night chart people, like, and you're going to have to remain integral to your own shit. And for the day chart people, it's really like, you signed up for this, motherfucker, and now you got to do the work. Saturn's going to be retrograde for what? June, July, August, September, October. And then the eclipse is when Saturn stations retrograde. It's actually when Mars goes in direct. So 4, 5, 6 months. What are you going to do? As we get into Sunday, though, the moon's going to go opposite Saturn and the moon's going to square Mercury. I like this moon opposite Saturn transit. Squaring Mercury, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. But look, the moon going opposite Saturn is, I've talked about this ad nauseum for the past couple of years, but that moon in Leo, there's going to be pride, there's ego, and it's going to be facing Saturn Aquarius. Sometimes your needs, because that's the other thing, the moon's about needs. Sometimes your needs are not going to be met if you are going to the people with it. Ask people who fled communist countries. They'll tell you exactly what that's about. But this moon in Leo is, about the sense of, again, pride, courage, facing fears and things like that. But as it goes opposite Saturn Aquarius, it's not going to be popular. It's not. And sometimes you need to do things that are going to go against the grain of what everyone else wants you to do, or what the authorities want you to do, or what they say is good for you. Think for your fucking self. I mean, that's probably one of my biggest MOs of me doing astrology is think for yourself. I would say live for yourself, but that's, I think you should live for your family and your community, and to help other people. But the moon's going to square Mercury. You don't have to say it nice. You really don't. Mercury's on top of Algol with the moon in Leo. Don't be afraid to tell. I mean, here's the thing. I could tell you guys, don't tell someone off. The moon is squaring Mercury. But look at this. Do you see a positive way to express your emotions without it getting confused? Because I don't. And sometimes you just have to say what you have to say, and don't restrain yourself of saying it. Something. One of the biggest things I've gotten out of life is I, as a human being in this world, just like you guys, have to deal with everyone's shit. Whether that's their stupid opinions, like because I know so many people of you disagree with me, which I love the people that disagree with me and watch me. That makes me feel like I want to have a very broad range of audience. But people are going to disagree with you. People are going to challenge you. And here's the thing. If you have to deal with everyone's shit, then everyone has to deal with your shit too. And so don't be afraid to be a fucking problem. Really. Like this moon in Leo opposite Saturn is like, oh, I don't want to be a problem. Be a fucking problem. Is there a problem? Because you need to fucking say it. And I look at this moon square Mercury. I think it's going to be easy to be shut down. But I also think, for some people, it's one of those things of, have some self-control. You don't need to take everything super far, but don't be afraid to say what you fucking feel and get it out there. It doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have, but you need to express how you feel, and it's not going to be understood. It's going opposite Saturn. It's not going to make everyone happy, but your job is not to make everyone happy. It's not. And that moon in Leo opposite Saturn Aquarius is like, you know what? Fuck everyone else. I have to do my fucking thing. And your needs need to be met too. You're just as equal as everyone else. So don't be afraid to be a problem, in my opinion. And that's Sunday. Guys, that's this fucking week. We go into next week. And next week doesn't have a lot either. It's Venus conjoining Uranus, which, that's fun. It's also going to be on the North Node, so there's a lot of innovative, fun things. But I'm going to save that for next week. But Mercury trines Pluto still. That's still going on. That hasn't really stopped. And so there is this kind of power trip, but next week, guys, it's not that big. We've already had the big week. If you're on my Patreon and you watch the Rising Sign horoscopes, I've told people June's not that big of a month. Neither is really July. It's really August is when we start getting more bigger transits, and then September and October. But this past week, this last week, and the beginning of this week is the big stuff. I don't want you guys to miss out on it. I guess that brings me to my final thoughts. I feel like I've been actually pretty upfront about how I feel about a lot of this week. So I want you guys to just be, be brave. Literally, be brave. Be confident. You have to trust the process and understand that you signed up for something that is a big deal. It is a very heavy weight. And you have to prove to yourself that you can do it. No one is going to tell you, don't listen to me of oh, you can do it. You can do it. Fuck that. Stop listening to me. Listen to yourself. Tell yourself that you can do it. Tell yourself that you can do anything. Listen to that internal monologue. Because if you're going about all these things that you want to do in life with an internal monologue that says, oh, I'm not shit. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm not worthy. Oh, childhood trauma. Oh, this, oh, that. Then you're never going to be shit. And you're never going to get anything that you want. And you're going to live miserably. And then if you're miserable, you're going to bring everyone down with you because misery loves company. And so you could either be a giver or a taker. You could either take from everyone else and even take from yourself. Like I've talked about this in my delineation episode. You not living your vision, your dreams, what you know is inside of you. You not living that personal integrity is a takeaway from other people. And fuck you for doing that shit. Be a giver. Give your full self. Givers gain. Give unconditionally. You guys should read the book, The Go-Giver. If you've read that book, I want to know if you guys have read it. It's one of my favorite fucking books. Give unconditionally. Give your full into something because at least you can say that you gave it your all rather than not trying at all. And so, again, this isn't the biggest week in the world. It could be if you decide it to be. Because here's the thing. I've seen some of the biggest astrology in the world do nothing for people. And I've seen some of the smallest astrology change people's lives. So it really is your call. It's your decision. So I'm going to leave you guys off with that. I really love and appreciate every single one of you guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this week. I really want to hear you guys' opinions. Also, in the comments, I want to know what you're doing for this Mars-Jupiter conjunction. Where are you being brave? Where are you being fearless? And whatever that means for you, because for some people, for me, I'm doing a lot of things regarding like my diet and my lifestyle and other challenges that are new for me. But for other people, what might be simple for me might be very challenging for other people. What might be simple for other people might be very challenging for me. So I'm just curious of where are you stepping up to the plate? Where are you stepping into that call to action? I want to know in the comments. So anyway, I'm going to leave you guys with that. I love and appreciate you guys, and I'll be seeing you next week.